Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. Monday, a little after 6. We'll go ahead and get started. See if we have any questions. Last couple of days, we've talked about several things. I think yesterday we talked primarily about the solar storm and what that looked like and the spiritual significance of it is what we were trying to reach. We were connecting it to our conclave that we had in 2011. Nick brought up the storm that was in 2012 that missed the earth and the significance of that. So we discussed that. Prior to, we had talked about a question that someone asked about God changing the heart of Saul, and so we discussed that as well. So okay, so that's where we are, and see if I have any questions. Someone text me a question that I'll get into in a minute, but first I want to see if we have any questions on what we've discussed in the last couple of days. Anyone? Okay.
This is for Mel. I have a comment, I think
Okay.
more or less that might be a question. With all that we were talking, I remembered after we got up yesterday, I remembered that there had been a huge storm that had hit the East African coast. So it's a cyclone. And I thought that was kind of strange. So I went out and I read more about it, and I'm wondering if the area that it hit, which was largely Tanzania, was part of the Nubian Kemet area. And the reason that came to mind is because the name of the storm is Hidaya. The name of the cyclone is Hidaya, Hidaya, and it means guidance. And I thought that was rather interesting and probably relevant to the other things that have happened after, like the lights and everything. So I thought that was rather interesting.
Yeah, I did. I looked at the video on that as well. Uh, and it is the rain season there, but this is they've been overwhelmed since mid-March. I think it says with rain and that was pretty devastating. But it named about 4 or 5 countries and that or was it Kenya was one, right? I can't remember all of them, but I thought,
Kenya's, Burundi, Tanzania. I
yeah.
can't remember the rest.
So I just thought that was any insight, y'all, anybody?
Um, Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi would not traditionally be part of what we would consider Kemet because it would be a little further north.
Okay.
Sudan, Ethiopia, um, maybe northern Kenya, because Kenya borders Sudan, but or southern Sudan anyway.
Yep.
But it would be, yeah, Sudan, Ethiopia, Egypt proper, maybe parts of Libya, that area, the northern part.
That was the Kushite Kingdom, northern Kenya, Ethiopia, Kenya, and north was the Kushite parts of the Kushite Kingdom, as well as Sudan. But as far as Kenya, I agree with you 100%, Audrey. It's not in that area. Matter of fact, Kemet, it's in the northeastern corner, so it would not. It's quite a ways from Kenya and Ethiopia. You know.
Okay, thank you.
I thought what was most interesting to me was it's a part of the world that normally experiences a lot of drought. And I remember thinking, looking at it, because I watched a couple of the videos. I wonder if there's any way that they can capture that water for future use. It just, you go from drought to just being overwhelmed. I just thought maybe it's something there that I don't see yet, but there had to be some spiritual significance there. But anyway, anyone else on any part of that? Any other questions? Thank you, Vamil.
Thank you, everyone.
Is there anything else grab our attention? Um, I looked at most of the video that Pastor sent us about Africa and looking at relationships with America. I did not, of course, see the tail end of it, but what do you guys see in that? What do you the teachers who have had a chance to look at it? Do you see any relationship to where we are? Any
I think that
connection?
I think the interview with the with the African official was right on target, and she was right on target in talking about disrespect and racism, and how the United States has not seen the African countries as equal. She was right on target about saying that we don't set an agenda. We simply ask them to come, and then we tell them what we want to give them and what they can do for us, rather than treating the African countries as equals, setting an agenda so that each side, the United States as well as the African countries, their personnel would have an opportunity to set the agenda, to place on there for discussion items that are important, not only to the United States and what it wants, but to the African countries and what it wants and needs. And so I just thought that she was right on target. And I think that this is one of those doors that has opened, that the United States must be knocked on the head. And hopefully we've already received the knock, so that now we are paying attention. Not that we are paying attention because Russia and China are paying attention, but that we pay attention for the right reason, to treat these folk as equal to these folk here in the United States.
Thank you. Great observation. I think one of the things too, she talked about the attitude adjustment that China made. And I wondered what they saw, what made them change their approach to things. I thought that was interesting.
Excuse me, Ron. Can you guys enlighten us on the video, what you were talking about, please? Maybe I missed it.
Okay.
I received the video this morning from Richard, and I shared it with the teachers. And the reason I did it is because I felt like it would speak volumes to where we are, and I most definitely express my appreciation to Richard for sharing. The video is an interview with a lady who is the previous ambassador to, what's it, the UN for Africa. Anyway, during the interview, the questions were asked in regards to the relationship that China, Russia, and the US had with African countries. And one of the questions was, there are 54 African countries. One of the questions was, are you speaking for each country? Do you feel like each country should speak for itself? Or are we talking about the entire continent of Africa? And her response was that we should speak as one voice for Africa, period. And this conversation went on to talk about those, the colonizers who set up shop in Africa. And one of the major colonizers was, of course, the US. And China and Russia entered the game. But from that point, the comparison was made to the attitude shift that Ron mentioned about China versus the US. For people who don't know it, no country have any meetings with the heads of state or with any representative country, actually, without having an agenda. And the agenda is put together by both countries, and their desires are listed in that agenda. Well, when it comes to Africa, Africans are simply invited to come to a conference in the US, and the US is never an agenda, which means that the US has no respect for leadership in Africa, nor the Africans. And she spoke of China, how China recognized that the game was not being played the way it was in the past, and their attitude shifted. Now, even though the Chinese attitude shift, she made no bones about Africa being represented by Africans, and she made no bones about of the disrespect that was paid to Africans by China. Because if there's no disrespect, they would not have had to change their approach. But the U.S. still has not changed its approach, and the approach that the U.S. has is one of total disrespect. Now, one of the things that intrigued me the most about it is, among others, of course, is how she spoke about the need for Africans in the diaspora to recognize who they are. The need for Africans to realize that regardless of where they are, they're Africans, and that African leadership must recognize it as well. The emphasis was placed on Africans in America because of as she put it, during slavery, there was a brain drain out of Africa, and and to this day they treated Africans like they didn't know anything. Yet Africa has the youngest population on earth, and Africa also, Africans are being trained in areas that are necessary for running the country and an economy. This is my take on what she said. They're running an economy, and they are staying home as opposed to leaving to go to Britain, US, etc. And she also said that the African leadership had to, and I'm paraphrasing, make sure that the doors are open and knowledge is there for Africans in the diaspora to return. Speaking of Africans primarily in the US, returning to Africa, is what she was emphasizing. Now, the reason I do believe that everything has shifted, not only because we have been talking about it, not only because it is our desire, not only because we recognize the power that Africa has that's been untapped, but she said something else, that the reason Africans accepted disrespect because they were afraid, the fear, and that fear was put in the African from day one when they colonized Africa and stole us from them. Now, this is the thing that gets me, that I really embraced. It's a female. And she's speaking for the whole of Africa. She's speaking about an African Union that our forefathers desired to put together in '63, and how now they are rejuvenating that desire to bring the countries of Africa together. She even talked about the erasing of borders so we could be one Africa. So I hope that helps you and others, Evan, to understand what we're talking about. And I'm sure that I missed quite a bit in the video in terms of my responding to this. However, I ask you if there's something that you saw in that, please add to what's being said. But first, I want to ask you, Evelyn, and others, is it clearer now what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Are you talking about Dr. Africana, the
No,
black lady?
no.
Okay.
No. This lady has a different name.
Okay. All right. Thank you. But
You're
yeah,
welcome.
I see what you're saying. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I feel like it's well, I don't feel that, I don't just believe it, I know it, that this has more of a spiritual connotation than a political connotation. The African leadership that we've talked about to bring peace and balance to the earth is all wrapped up in her presentation. I see it that way, and I wonder if some of you others have see it that way, based on the portions or the entirety of the video. It's not but it's 24 minutes and 20 seconds. So.
Hello, everyone. This is Kathy. Pastor, I agree with everything that you all have said in your summation of what sent out. And one of the things that I just wanted to add, because both you and Barbara have done an excellent job of summarizing what she said. But one of the things that struck me was when she said that they enslaved our best and our brightest. And then out of that fear, when we were brought here, we were made to believe that we were insignificant, dumb, didn't understand anything. And we've kind of talked about that a lot. But for her to acknowledge that the best and the brightest were enslaved, and then were made to feel, or were told that they were insignificant. And I loved how she said that the Africans here and that diaspora here in America have got to go back, and you just said it, and realize that no matter where we are Africans. And so, and that just resonated deeply in me. And every time I hear that, since we've been studying, knowing who we are, it just resonates deeply. And it's a point of, and I'm using this word loosely, it's a point of pride for me, because I don't know any other word to describe it, but it makes me feel good to know who I am and to know that I'm of African descent. And I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Ron, did you see anything that's in it? You started the conversation.
Oh, no, I guess I listening to it so late, I probably need to listen to it again, but I heard most of it. The thing that got my attention the most was the passion in her voice. Uh, and you could tell this is something that she is in wholeheartedly. All of her is a part of this. And I like how thorough she was. She left no stone unturned. And I was trying to remember when he tried to change the subject or talk about something else. And when she brought up racism, how did she put it? She didn't say, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What did she say?
There's
But
thousands of something, 10,000 something's in the room.
but she brought it up and with uh,
But yeah, I found intriguing about that,
what's that?
that when she spoke of racism being one of the things that all of this disrespect springs from, she talked more about the racism in the US than anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's what intrigued me about her, the way she addressed the racism.
And she said something else too at the very beginning, and I wasn't sure if it was meant to be what's the word I'm looking for? She talked about America's agenda, and she mentioned something about it always talks about democracy, as though
Right.
we are going to tell you how to run, how to improve things. It was almost like she said it sarcastically, but she kept going.
You don't ask us about policy. You tell us what the policy is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and good evening, Ron. Good evening, everyone. As I looked at the video and listened to it, she, made it very evident that, United States is like losing ground. And what I mean by losing ground is that, we need to wake up and realize that game is not going to be like it used to be. And there's other countries like China and others that, are sitting down, giving them the respect that when they come to the table, it's not like we got to listen to whatever you say. And that's what we have to do. No, we're coming, with the purpose that she's bringing, not only the history, but she also referred to the importance of truth. She also refers to the importance of righteousness. And again, these are principles that we've talked about, through Maya, but I think that there's education that's being brought to our awareness, not in terms of Western society way of teaching or education, but I think through the spirit, not only the ancestors, but in terms of what, we need to be aware of, as a people. And again, not so much in terms of just, the African perspective, but in terms of coming to the table that they need to recognize that it is not going to be the way that it used to be, where you can just tell us what you want. And I think she talked about minerals, where it was something else that other countries want. And they have that true richness. They have, that, because of, again, the origin of who we are, but I think it's more to that point now where you, like you say, I think Pastor mentioned earlier, you have a woman who's speaking to this radio station or this organization, and it seems like it wants to be put out there in the macro that people know the truth.
Yeah.
George, I could not agree with you more. It's like this woman is setting the agenda for the future. She has not had an agenda for the African countries, but she's putting out there, this is going to be the agenda going forward. Either you change your approach, or we will partner with people who will receive us as equals, who will give us opportunity for input, who will listen to what we say. So it's like I agree with you, George. She's putting in a macro. Didn't
Yeah.
have an agenda before. You got one now.
Did anybody else feel, I think when she said, because she said it several times that the United States is losing ground, but I took that to mean something else. I took that a little more spiritual, although I think she meant it from the economics perspective. But I think in hindsight it had much higher meaning to it. At least that's the feeling I got when she said it, because she said it on more than one occasion.
He also mentioned, I can't remember exactly the words, but she said something. She said, this is spiritual. Did anybody else hear that? I heard her say that.
I'll listen to it again because I was kind of in a hurry. Pastor Coleman, I saw it this morning, but at work I didn't have time listening. Then I forgot about it, and my mind was on something else. But I need to hear it again.
She also talked about white supremacy as one of the causes of why the U.S. treats Africa the way they treat them. Yeah, but that struck me when she said this is spiritual. Anyway, I'll have to go back and listen to it again.
Yeah, I want to hear that now too.
I want to hear it as well again, because as soon as I listened to it, I actually copied it and sent it to the teachers and replied to Rich's email, of course. But I'm thinking that I'm not talking about the saying spiritual. I think she did say that. However, I'm thinking that this is more of an agenda being set for Africans worldwide, not just Africa, but Africans in the diaspora as well.
Yeah.
I do believe that she set the agenda for us also, because I believe she was speaking from the depths of the hearts of the ancestors, and the way her voice shift with deep compassion when she talked about for 400 years this been going on since you stole us from Africa. That's a passion that I have not heard anyone talk about since Patrice Lumumba and Kwame Nkrumah. That's the passion that I felt when she was speaking. Now, I'm not saying there are others like Judy Nyerere did not say that. Ken Kaunda, I'm not saying that, but I'm talking about the passion that I hear and feel when I read and hear what Patrice Lumumba and Nkrumah talked about the Africans in America becoming aware of who they are. Because right now we have people who of African descent who would disagree with her and say, I'm not an African. And if you're not an African, what are you? You damn sure not an American. I'm sorry. But you're not an American because Americans have privileges. So what are you? So you are an African who lives in America, period.
Pastor and everyone, she mentioned about Pan-Africanism, Pan-Africanism. And what are your thoughts about that? I mean, or can you give us a better understanding in terms of, she mentioned that in the video about Pan-Africanism?
Pan-Africanism is an ideology that encompasses a desire for all Africans to be supportive of Africa, as well as recognizing that we are simply Africans in the diaspora. Pan-Africanism is an ideology that says Africa for Africans. And I don't think anyone articulated that better than Marcus Garvey. The Pan-Africanist movement was extremely strong in the 60s. And it is what influenced Ronkarenga in LA to bring into existence the Kwanzaa celebrations. So it's a broad, I guess the bottom line is that Pan-Africanism is a broad ideology that speaks to the desires, the needs for Africans worldwide, with a focus on the continent of Africa, of course.
Thank you.
I hope that helped you, George.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments? I do also believe that we're shaping it. We're helping to shape it. The it of which I speak is what she was presenting to us. So I'm not.
I guess so. The only other thing, Pastor, that I observed, at least I think I see this right. Most other approaches to America is asking for something. She really gave an ultimatum. It wasn't
did.
like I'm asking you for anything. It was very matter of fact. It was strong. And not vulgar or ugly or anything like that, but she made her, her point came across very clear. And I like that.
I felt like she was sitting on the throne, like
Yeah.
she's speaking not only to authority, but she's speaking with authority. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It was recorded by Al Jazeera, which is a news organization out of the Middle East. Some of you read about them, that Israel put them out of the country. They banned them from Israel, last week? But
Can I make a comment when
Yeah.
you finish? I'm sorry.
finish.
I apologize.
No, go ahead.
Well, from what it sounds like what you're saying, she spoke like a black mama. The sternness,
Yeah,
from what I hear you saying.
I think, I would carry that a bit further. I think that she spoke as the voice of God.
Okay, I see that.
That's how strongly I see it.
And it's like she's saying, don't play with me. I'm nobody to play with. Those of us who got that black mom, we know you don't play with us. And we mean what we say, and we say what we mean. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, dear.
She
That's
mentioned,
why I said that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
that's why I thought that she set the agenda for the universe. In
Yeah.
other words, get things in order, the universe, and as George pointed out, there are principles of Maya. All of those things are. She didn't say that in what she said, but you could hear all of those principles being espoused by how she said it and what she said. And no, she didn't. I mean, if anyone had asked her, she would have said, "Did I stutter?" No, I did not stutter. I mean, she was very forthcoming, forthright, as if she were. How do you said it when a leader just espouses that this is what must happen, this is what will happen, kind of thing.
Yes.
One other observation I think was she mentioned when she was an ambassador and some of those same things she brought up that were ignored. And it was almost like I had no authority in that position, but now I'm selling this again, but I'm not an ambassador now. It's almost like I'm saying this under a different authority. So I really think I agree with the pastor's you're seeing God and the authority that she was speaking under with no apologies. And just the whole thing to me was high energy.
Yeah, she also talked about in terms of setting the agenda, she talked about the fact that there's no African country that has there's Africa as a whole has no voice on the UN Security Council. All
Yeah.
those other countries can veto everything, whatever, but Africa has no voice. And she talked about the fact that Africa also has no voice in the G20. And she thinks they should have some kind of representative. So she's setting a new agenda. And I think she talked about maybe Biden is considering
Yes.
having a representative from the AU
Yeah.
in the G20.
She did say that. She
Yeah.
did say that. Because the guy was asking about representation from different countries. She said no.
Mm.
Of a voice from Africa, period. So she did make that statement that Biden was considering that.
What did she say about Obama? I missed that. I couldn't tell. She mentioned his name as well.
Oh, she said Obama also invited those African leaders to the US with no agenda.
Okay.
And that goes to show you something and nothing else. It's not about who's sitting in the position. It's about the energy of the position. Obama functioned with the energy of America in relationship to other nations, especially people who look like us, and didn't even give a thought to it. Am I critical of him? Oh, yes, some areas I am. Did I vote for him? I did. Would I do it again? I would. But I thought it was telling that she not only recognized it, but made sure that she spoke it as well.
She left no stone unturned. She said
She
it
did.
all.
I mean, see, this is one of the things that we, even during the civil rights movement in the 60s, we struggled with. a black face doesn't mean they represent you. If you don't believe that, ask Tim Scott. So it's not about it's not about the skin tone as much as it is about the action. Putting action to your positive words.
This 24 minutes does not stand alone. It ties together with the energy and the truth that we seek. Somebody bring that together for us, where we are and how that fits into this. Please.
Ron, I probably won't be able to state it exactly in terms of pulling it all together. But what I will say is when you spoke about Habakkuk, write the vision plainly. You know, in the Message Bible, it talks about the vision message. But if we look at just the principle of truth, you know, in reference to the definition of how it's stated in Ma'at, it talks about the ability to be able to understand the difference between the real and the unreal.
Mm-hmm.
It says, in this interpretation, reality is grounded in the belief of the greatest goodness for humanity, all mankind, that which permeates all that exists, that all living creatures are sacred and are spiritual beings deserving of respect and honor. He spoke of truth, but coming into that awareness from a spiritual perspective and discipline, it's all coming together in the power that, again, we can understand history, the origins of history. And I think that it's working together for the good in terms of the greatest goodness for mankind. And that's what I kind of thought she was saying when she just put it out there in the truth of her heart, soul, and what she wanted to put out there in the macro. I just wanted to share those thoughts on truth.
Thank you, George. You bring up an interesting point. Truth is timeless. It has no boundaries, no borders. Truth has no beginning or end that way. It's just truth. And she talked about history. She talked about the bringing people together, the future. She talked about the present. She covered it all in a very short time. Thank you.
I think that her response to the interview covered everything that we have been talking about in regards to Africa for quite some time. It covers the reality that the birth of everything, if every human on this earth was from the womb of an African. It also raises the voice of the Cushites again, meaning that though she is recognized as an ex-ambassador, She is the ambassador for a global agenda. And as we have spoken so many times, the voice of that African woman must be heard, must be embraced, must be recognized, regardless of how some of us have wrestled with the reality of feminine power and energy. She is an example of what we are talking about, the loving kindness, because she never talked about anything that was destructive, even to those who continue to plague the earth with racism. She never spoke negatively about any of it. She just spoke the truth about the negativity of it. And as far as we are concerned, let's keep in mind that we start seeing and having access to more understandings and seeing more about what is after we embrace some truths that were very, very hard and still hard for some of us to adhere to, embrace rather. And the idea of a woman being noted for being the voice of God, that's pretty much unheard of, especially in our society. I want to carry it a step further. Here I go. I want to carry it a step further. The voices of the ancestors, both male and female, but primarily the voices of the females who were priests, females who were pharaohs. All of those voices, all of that authority was centered in her. And when I say the voice of God, I'm not saying the voice of a male entity of God. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the true essence of who God is. I'm talking about the femininity, the feminine essence of the one who created everything that is, that brought all life into this earth. What she said would not have had the same power if it had been said by a man. It had to come from the voice of a female, Mother Africa. Why do we call it Mother Africa? Because it's from the womb of Africa that everything comes, the motherland. We always talk about it that way. But yet, when it comes to a deity, we only see males. And that is because of the manipulation of the scriptures. That's changed now. That's changed forever. And the reason I know it has changed is because it was a female speaking. The reason I know it has changed is because I have been reading articles, I have been listening to statements, and those statements and articles reinforce what I have known, what most of us have known for quite some time, and that is that the powers that be are more afraid of an African woman than they are of an atom bomb. And that is the reason everything is done, to dehumanize, to discredit, and to manipulate, to injure, whatever were necessary in order to stop an African woman from speaking. This is just the beginning. Be proud of who you are. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Seems like a good place to take a pause. Y'all kind of reflect on where we are. Okay, any final questions or comments? Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate the discussion, the questions, the energy, and let's keep moving in the same direction. I want to talk about next, sometime, maybe not next week, but one heart. What does it mean for multiple people to have one heart? Listen to this verse. Then the Lord answered me and said, record the vision and inscribe it on tablets, that the one who reads it may run. It does not say the ones who read it, plural. It does not say for those who read it. He said the one who read it. The one. That's what I want to talk about. But I think that ties all of this together the last few weeks. So maybe next time we're together, we'll get a chance to look at that. But thank you. Hope you had a great week. Hope you have a great week. Excuse me.
See you guys.
Bye.
Enjoy
Thank you,
your week.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Have a good week.